When we found this space, there were no columns to deal with, no columns to work around. It was a clean, open space. It was just like a completely clear canvas for us to do whatever we wanted. The space was originally used as a Chinese laundry, and then most recently, before we bought it, it was an au pair placement service. And the goal was to have a small contained space that was visually really interesting that we could tweak to make it work in our house, but also not take up a lot of visual sightline. The most important thing, let the space live and let it breathe, and don't destroy your sight lines. And so we wanted a small bedroom, one that would be interesting and our friends would go home and talk to everybody about, that they slept in something interesting, but not so interesting that they would want to move in with us. We sourced the containers by having to track down a container reseller at the port. There's a series of resellers that actually buy old used containers from the port and resell them to anyone who wants to use them for general purposes.
Containers, ordinarily used for shipping. The secondary life of a container, you're limited only by your imagination and your checkbook. We've built containers that ended up being housing, containers for artists in a few studio projects here in Oakland. We've done pottery studios, we've done room additions, we've done backyard forts for the kids, and simple storage as well. There are a lot of possibilities in terms of what the secondary life of a container can be. A typical 20-foot container about a year ago, we would have sold it for $13.50. In today's market, we're getting $24 and $25.50 in some cases for a good wind and watertight condition container.
We realized that very early on there were a tremendous amount of finished details that needed to get done in this house that weren't things that you could buy off the shelf. You can't Home Depot this house. We were actually walking on Hay Street in San Francisco in Hayes Valley, and we walked into a furniture store and saw a design by Pat Carson that was a lounge chair and ottoman that we absolutely fell in love with. Leathers, stainless steel, just a perfect juxtaposition of design elements that we really, really love. And we noticed on the bottom of the chair that there was a little shark fin. And so I looked at his name, Pat Carson Designs, and we started a dialogue.
People sometimes see something in a store and then they have the opportunity to have their own custom thing by giving me a call, and with a conversation I can make something a bit more suited to their needs. That's pretty unique. It's not all off the shelf.
When he came over and he saw the containers, he got it immediately. There was not really let us explain to you what we're trying to do. He was like, oh, I can't wait to work on this project with you.
I think the idea of them stacked on top of each other really intrigued me inside of a building. I wanted to bring elements that were really well made. I think that's paramount in my work, is just to spend the extra time to make something that's like tactile. When you touch it, you can feel that someone took enough time to make it feel nice. It has a sensual thing to it, even though it's made from steel or hard materials. It can still be something that you want to touch and feel, I think.
The design I respect the most is when someone takes an object that was living in some other way with some other life, and they look at it and they say, wait, this can be something entirely different. That's what inspires me, something totally repurposed.